What's going on, YouTube? It's the Bushy Beard, and I'm back, and I'm bushier than ever, and I thought today would be the best day to switch it up. We got an interview with Zane Lowe. It was on Mac Miller's channel, official channel, so I feel like I can do the reaction to it without it getting taken down. Oh my goodness, why? I feel like I have to do this every time, so my hand gestures can be put into the video. But yeah, oh, that just popped up. So we're going to do this and react to the interview as we go, because it's I don't know, I would like to know more about who Mac was, and I feel like I learned a lot through the songs and through y'all's comments, but I feel like I can know even more by listening to the interview. So we're going to do it, and I think somebody recommended it a long time ago. So here it is.
Book that you represent, man. Respect. It's good to see you. What
Thank
the
you.
f is going on?
I'm back, man. I got another record.
Yeah, and you look good, man. There's light in your eyes.
Uh-oh. This is... I'm gonna try it. No, I don't know. It's on his channel. We'll see.
Thank you. Thank you. There it is.
Was there light in your eyes when you started making this album?
Yeah,
It was.
a lot. You know, I went on a journey with it, like any record, and it took a long time for me to even figure out what it was.
Because you're asking...
I think this is about swimming or circles. Let me see. A conversation, swimming. Yep. Okay. So here we go.
a lot of questions on it too.
Yeah, and usually I finish a record, and the next week I know exactly what I'm doing next. Right? That's how it usually.
That's insane. Just to think about it, like, you just put your heart and your soul into this record, and you don't even really let it sit for very long. You kind of just sit there and you finish it, and then you're on to your next project, and that project's going to be completely different than the project before. It's insane how an artist's mind can work.
It goes. That's why I've been able to come every year. But this time, it took me a while to figure out like what I wanted to say, what kind of music I wanted to make, and it was just a lot of experimenting. So we finally landed on some type of a path, and I took my time.
Here's the comp.
I like that. For this one, for swimming at least, he said, you know, it took him a little bit longer to kind of find the direction. And sometimes as an artist, you got to do that. You got to make sure you make an album that you're going to be, one, proud with and proud of, but also really ecstatic to put out. And it seems like he is. Like, he seems like this was his masterpiece.
Compliment, man, that the path has a very linear and cohesive feel to it across from start to finish. I feel like I'm listening to a body of work. It reminds me of like One Day It'll All Make Sense by Common or something, you know, where I press play on it and it comes to an end. I'm like, wow, that was a complete thought.
That's the goal for me, you know, because I think you get tied up in like, I need this song, you know, for this audience, or I need to touch this demographic, and you lose sight of the fact that you're making an album. And what I'm always trying to do is make something that you start at the beginning and want to listen all the way through.
Look.
And I think that is probably one of the biggest compliments you can give to an artist, especially someone who's a storyteller, and Mac is definitely a storyteller, is that, look, when I press play, I saw the story. I heard it all the way through, and I understand what you were trying to say, and you came off and you were able to coherently express this story. And I could tell it, I could imagine it, I could see it. I think as somebody who's an artist and a creative type like Mac is, that's probably one of the biggest compliments he could get.
Here's the bottom line. You can't help who you fall in love with, period.
Right.
And there is territory which comes along. You have to make a decision. Am I going to commit to this relationship regardless of the stress that it might cause on me or on others? And you had to make that decision. But was it stressful?
Life is stressful. Do you know what I mean? So, of course, there were stressful times. Look, it's not that unique, you know? Like, I was in love with somebody. We were together for 2 years. We worked through good times, bad times, stress, and everything else. And then it came to an end, and we both moved on. And it's that simple, you know? And, like, I haven't been on the internet, so, you know, people have assumed that I'm, you know, like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Like,
why did you drop off?
I think that's a good way to put it, right? So he said, you know, I'm maybe a celebrity, and I may be this famous person, but what I go through is not unique. Like, just because I am who I am doesn't mean that I don't feel the same things everybody else feels. And so in a breakup, everybody feels relatively the same thing, right? You've been dating this person, whether it's a male or female, for so long, and you've been through the ups and downs, and you've been through all of it, and you're continuing hard, and you're continuing, and you're continuing, and then it just stops. At one point you decide maybe we should go our separate ways. It's just not working. And after all that effort, all that time, all the energy spent on trying to save something, of course there's going to be a period where you're let down because you're like, man, I tried. And there's like, maybe I could have done this, or maybe I could have done that. And there's always going to be these second guessing and second thoughts in your mind. But you just got to realize what you're going through is not unique. It's something everybody feels. And so if you need to talk about something, talk to somebody because they've been through it. You know, it's a good thing.
Off line.
Because I was about to drop an album, and also like, I don't know, it just all seemed kind of like unimportant. Do you know, like the need to show people I was okay? Like what is that? Where does that come from? Why do we have this need to use social media and internet to
because social media is the new soap opera where people live vicariously. We, I should say, as human beings, not to be divisive, because we're all part of this and we all use it. We live vicariously through the lives and through the experiences of others. And because everyone else is willing to show those experiences for us to live vicariously through them, you don't have to ask for it. But the internet is the playground where that interaction.
And that's an interesting comment. And it's one reason why I try to kind of stay away from social media. And he's like, this social media is a way where we can vicariously live through somebody else's eyes and life, but that's not true. All you're seeing on social media are the highest points of people's lives. They don't, for the most part, some people do, but they don't necessarily go, like if you're having a terrible day and you're just like, oh, I just want to give up on the world. You don't take 100 Snapchats of yourself and put it up and be like, man, my life really sucks, like, and then it goes through every day like doing the same thing. No, when you're feeling happy or you're going to do something fun, that's when you take the pictures, that's when you do the post. And it's like, we're not really seeing the real person, we're seeing the highlights, the highlight reel of the person. We're not really living vicariously through them. We're living their best life even though they're not living their best life, if that makes sense, right? So living vicariously would be going to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And if you're only doing one of those, then you're not really living vicariously through somebody. And so it's that kind of thinking, I think, that sets a lot of young people up because they look at social media and they're like, oh, this person's not going through what I'm going through. Oh, this person's not going through what I'm going through. They don't understand. They probably do. They just don't post about it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Social media ran over.
Occurs.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, it's strange. Like the whole thing is a little strange, but it's not negative. It's just a part of something that's gonna continue to help make me who I am. You know, like it's all positive energy. You know, like I am happy for her and moving forward with her life, just as I'm sure she is with me.
People take a look at the last 12 months of your life. The fact that you haven't been visible online, you haven't been out there saying anything, which is
so good.
Which must feel great, by the way.
I think that's another thing is the way you frame things in your mind can also have a huge effect on you. If you're going to take something, yes, there's probably going to be days that you're going to be down. But if you try to frame your mindset as, okay, maybe I just went through a breakup. What can I do to better myself going forward? And try to think about the positives and keep yourself busy instead of focusing just on the negatives. It can change everything, right? It can change how you perceive certain situations, and you're just working and you're twisting things in your mind to where it's not negative, but it's more of a positive. Like, all right, so this is going to be a bad example. So let's say you've been working at a job 10 years and you get laid off. And instead of thinking, man, what did I do to get laid off? Maybe kind of change your mindset to what can I do to get a better job? And I'm going to be upfront. That's a terrible, terrible thing. I have never really gone through that, so I don't know exactly how it feels. But that's what I'm trying to say. For me, okay, I'll give you one of my examples. Right, a lot of people, when they get out of the military, they think, oh, this is going to be the best thing in my life. I'm ready to go do stuff. And then they get caught in the rut of being out of the military, missing the camaraderie, and they get stuck. For me, I framed it a little bit different. I was like, look, that's going to be a part of who I am going forward. It's always going to be there. But it's time to do the next mission, right? It's time to go to the next mission. It's time to go to school. It's time to go do this. So the minute I got out, I went to the college. I enrolled. I got ready to start, or community college, and I started doing classes. I kept myself busy, always moving forward and not staying back. So it's just how you frame things, and that can get you a little bit farther ahead if you were just stuck. I don't know. Maybe that helps.
Visible online. You haven't been out there saying anything, which is
so good.
Which
oh
must
my
feel
God.
great, by the way. I was gonna say.
You have no idea, dude. Oh my God, it's so nice. It's so nice because
How
you gotta
often-
understand. Like I used to wake up in the morning. You wake up and
It's
you
straight
reach
for
for
it.
your phone.
Yeah.
And me, like, I can find any story I want about myself. Do you know what I mean? So I used to look at my phone, scroll through Twitter and Instagram, and get my ego stroked and destroyed in 5 minutes.
And that's another thing, right? So another reason I kind of got off of the social media is that's the first thing we go to when we wake up. We kind of start scrolling through to see things. And there's always going to be a certain post or a certain poster that's going to get under your skin, and you're like, man. And that just starts your day wrong, right? It just starts you in a wrong place where you can do anything else in that time. But yeah, again, social media rant over.
And Instagram and get my ego stroked and destroyed in 5 minutes every morning. Do you know what I mean? Like someone being like, you are the greatest thing ever. You suck. Like that's how I started my day. And then also like that being like some part of like a weight in my emotional space or my headspace. And so like, but it became second nature,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're sitting there, you're watching TV, pick up your phone, scroll, it's commercial, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, those
It's muscle memory now.
Right. So when all the press happened, right, with the breakup and the DUI, and which we'll get to, you know what I mean?
Okay, good.
Don't worry, we'll get there.
Stay tuned, everybody.
But with everything that happened, and it was just too much, you know. Like I'm looking on the internet, and I'm like I already have my own feelings and emotions and thoughts about what I've went through. So why the fuck am I gonna have room for all of these? Like.
Yeah, and that's another thing is like while you're trying to deal with whatever's going on in your life, everybody's going to have an opinion about it, and then you're going to have to start processing that. And so I can get what he's saying is like not having to process everybody else's emotions allows me to properly process what I'm going through and the struggles that I'm feeling. And then once I'm done with that, maybe, who knows, I can go back on and start going through and stuff like that. I totally get it.
Like what? Like how am I gonna even have room for
Makes
that?
sense. Makes sense.
So-
Cut it out.
So I completely cut it out.
What did you replace it with?
Space. Dude, the DUI thing, a lot of people hit my phone and they're like, because I have a past with all that stuff.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
when I made the Divine Feminine, that was when I put that record out, that was the first time I had a clear head in 10 years.
That's right.
Whenever that happened, everyone's like, yo, you must be, like, the story painted itself, you know.
Yeah.
It's too easy to be like, oh, here he goes back to what we, you know what I mean, back to what we're used to.
What did happen?
You ever feel like invincible?
And this came out, I think, a couple months prior to his death from drugs, and so it's kind of easy to. And again, I don't know if he was as heavy into drugs when he died of drugs, when he had his mixing the two uppers and the downers. I don't know if he had would be a heavy drug user at the time. I don't know, but it's kind of easy now looking at it here, and trying to hear what he says. But how you know he died? It's kind of like two different worlds.
You know what I mean? Like you're just.
I mean, maybe I could count on one,
like,
two
you gotta-
fingers. How many times
you
I've
gotta
done it.
understand is that I lived a certain life for 10 years and faced almost no real consequence at all. I had no version of the story that didn't end up with me being fine. Yeah, I made a stupid mistake. I'm a human being. Like, drove home drunk, but it was the best thing that could have happened.
See, that's an interesting thing. Is I listened to this guy named Bobby Bones. He's an online, or not online, but a radio personality, and he says, the moment somebody becomes famous, that's when they stop maturing. And it's an interesting thing to think like that, right? He says, I had this problem for 10 years, but there was never any consequences. Not necessarily maybe because of who he was as a celebrity, but maybe it was. Like, so celebrities rarely get in trouble. Obviously, there are some times that they do, but there's no consequences a lot of times for their actions. And so they don't have to learn how to be, quote unquote, an adult. And so it's like the moment somebody becomes famous, that's when they stop maturing. That's when they don't have to mature. And that right there, he said, look, I did it for 10 years and never had any negative consequences. And so I felt like I could keep doing it. Here, I had a consequence. It was a wake-up call.
Best thing that could have happened. I needed that. I needed to run into that light pole and literally like have the whole thing stop. But those things are important, and you get the urge and the itch to tell people, don't worry, I'm okay. Don't worry, I'm okay. Because, like I have people that care about me and fans that love my music, and it's a beautiful relationship with them of people who have been with me through being a 19-year-old wide-eyed kid to being a self-destructive, depressed drug user to, making love music, to all these different stages. And then they see something like that and they worry. So your first reaction is, let me tell them I'm cool.
Yeah, your first reaction is to think about the well-being of others, which is kind of crazy when you should be actually just concentrating on yourself to some degree. But I understand.
But you just realize you have time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like there will be a time to.
That statement hits hard, right? That you got time. Whew. And that's an interesting thing, because do we have time? I mean, he died shortly after this. It's an interesting thing hearing it, knowing the outcome, right? Yeah, it's hard. You
just realize you have time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like there will be a time to address those things, but everything is be fine.
Who else rolled through the studio and hung out? Even if they didn't contribute, who else? Just because I know that you keep an open door.
It was the good old cast and crew of people coming through and just hanging out and listening. Thundercat, Anderson, Sid, people.
What about John Mayer?
He's a singer and a guitar. He plays guitar.
He does have that kind of sense of humor. I kind of got it from the NPR one a little bit. I'm not reacting to the NPR one. Don't worry. But yeah, I kind of got that where he like, what about John Mayer? And then he'll go off, oh yeah, he's a singer, blah, blah, blah. It's funny.
He's dope. You should check him out.
I hear good things.
No, he's unreal. But no, so John came by. I was like, yeah, man, come over, play some records, we'll see what happens. And he comes by, and, he doesn't have a guitar. and because he didn't plan on doing anything, he wasn't planning on making.
It's not like you all see your friends with an SM58 in your back pocket.
No, all my homies that play instruments, I expect them to have said instrument on them.
Slung over their back.
Like we're getting lunch, I'm like, where is your violin?
That's so fucked up.
No, I'm joking. Right. But he comes over just to hang out and listen to music. I pull up Small Worlds, and he's just like, give me a guitar.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I have like 20 some guitars at my house.
He played. I wonder if he played on that. I don't remember. I think I've listened to it, but I don't know. I don't remember if he played on it.
And we were all sitting there like, what guitar is he gonna pick? And he laid down the guitar, and just a really organic, awesome experience. He's a really good guy. Talked to him a lot,
Yeah, he's got things to say.
Great things to say.
And I really, he's got a great brain on him as well. I mean, he's someone who you can talk about. I mean, you can start right here at point A, and you can end up at X and Y very quickly.
Yeah, and it's nice.
It's good.
I love the journey, man. Take me there.
Are you feeling emotionally connected right now? This album is done. You look healthy. You look well. Are you feeling in a good space?
I feel in a great space. You know what I mean? Like the more stuff I get out and like do, like, you know what I mean? I was all worried about shooting a video, and I shot a video, and I was like, oh, I just had a great time. I was, tripping about doing an interview, and I did an interview. I'm like, that's not that bad. So I'm just saying.
One was a great time and the other wasn't that bad. Like,
I
I'm
know, but
standing
you
right
gotta,
in front of you.
I know.
That's great. Again, that's his sense of humor, right?
But in my head,
right.
we're gonna talk about a DUI. It's gonna get really
But
dark.
you were great. No, you were great.
Thank you.
You were honest, man. And that's what I said at the beginning. You're an honest person. You've been honest as long as I've known you. You've never sat down or stood in front of me in any situation on or off the record and not been straight.
Yeah. No. That's
You can handle that.
But that's okay. So that's for me. That's been a gift and a curse, I guess, because you end up saying things and reading headlines that you could have avoided.
Yeah, but you know what you do now?
But
you turn it off.
Exactly. As long as I'm being honest, I don't actually have anything to trip about because
as long as you're telling the truth, you don't gotta remember your lies, right?
I know the type of human being my parents raised. I know. I trust in who I am as a person. So if I just keep it honest and keep it me, I don't have anything to really trip about.
That's freaking fantastic. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed getting to know more about him and seeing him in a kind of an interview place. I don't necessarily agree with the first comment here. Seems like the dude's lived life more in 26 years than most will in 100 years. I disagree. Maybe in a different way he's lived, but doesn't mean he lived more. But yeah, it was interesting. So I enjoyed it, and I think maybe I'll try to mix some of these things in every once in a while if it doesn't get blocked. Fingers crossed. Anyways, until next time, you two, smile like you mean it from the Bushy Beard.